debate is about recognizing the land claims that were theirs, and the Aboriginals have made state in those claims, and now they have to go to legal battles all the time, and they're taken away. You heard mothers, fathers. In Taganagua, when the police came down, it wasn't just the police force dispersing a legal strike. What it was, they came out of cars, out of trucks, out of vans, fully loaded with AK rifles to shut them down. They held these people in ditches with guns to their head while they were loading them in. It was awful. It took me 15 minutes to move 40 feet on the highway. It was a peaceful demonstration until they showed up. And they shut down Highway 2 for a long, long time and made everyone bitter of that peaceful resolution. Peaceful. It was only when the police showed up because of the government to do this. I thought for sure we were going to see another Dudley George. Thank you for your time and patience.
Thank you, Don. Microphone 3.
I'm Sister Jackie Clare from 1480, Kingston area. I have people from Taganagua who I like to call friends. But on the other hand, I was one of those people that was affected June 29th last year. I had to go to Toronto, and it took me over 9 hours to get home because of all the roads leading to Kingston were closed. Excuse me for my nervousness. This is my first time speaking at a microphone. Obviously, I was very upset, very tired by the time I got home. On Highway 2, at like 4 o'clock in the morning when we got there, there were Aboriginals sitting at the border with rifles and guns around a fire. That was very scary indeed. There were police officers, like Brother Don had said, but they were also, the Taganagua people were sitting there with guns. I don't see that as solidarity. I am a CUPE member, they are a CUPE member, but they were willing to shoot me if I wanted to get through that barrier. So I don't see that as a solidarity. And thank you.
Thank you. Mike 4, Sid.
Sisters and brothers, Sid Ryan, CUPE, Ontario. I know this is, or can be, a divisive debate, but I think we ought to be able to frame this in such a way that it ought not to be that divisive. I think if we bring the principles, the trade union principles that all of us have grown up with and apply them to this situation, I don't think we'll be able to see that this is like an occupation or people breaking the law. I know the sister a few moments ago was very well-meaning when she talked about finding some difficulty in trying to get home after an occupation or a blockade. But you know, I just think back to a couple of weeks ago to the T2T strike, and they were making the very same argument. The politicians were making the same argument that we ought to take the right to strike away from workers because of a public inconvenience. And sometimes, you know, sometimes protests are needed. I remember the Oka crisis 15 years ago. They brought out guns then as well, but it wasn't the Aboriginal community that first brought out the guns. It was the Canadian Army parked on outside of Oka who brought out the weapons. I remember the cops brought out the weapons when Dudley George got a bullet in the head. So, sisters and brothers, I would ask that we take a look at the issues that are facing the Aboriginal community. It is a national disgrace in this country. I'm ashamed of the way that the Aboriginal community is treated. Take a look at Saskatchewan, for example. Take a look at that's 200 communities across this country that are on permanent boil water orders, permanently having to boil your water for year after year. And in Northern Ontario, When it happened to Saskatchewan, they put them on buses, sisters and brothers, rather than fix the problem and put the money in and fix the filtration system. They moved the entire community onto buses and they drove them into Sudbury and the surrounding communities. And I'll say to you this much. If that happened in the community that I live in Whitby, a primarily white community, do you think for 1 second that they'd put the residents of Whitby on a bus and ship them down to Pickering or ship them over to Oshawa like hell they would, sisters and brothers? And that's what this is about. This is about civil rights, my friends. It's about taking a look at righting the wrongs that have been inflicted upon the Aboriginal community for over 2 centuries, sisters and brothers. It's about basic human rights. And it's about whether we have the ability and the intestinal fortitude to stand with the Aboriginal community and say, these are our brothers and sisters. And if the richest country in the world cannot provide drinking water to the Aboriginal community, my God, what's wrong with our union? And finally, I want to say, when I get off the plane and I go into Winnipeg, why do I have to trip over the Aboriginal community on the streets of Winnipeg with no jobs, with problems, with affliction? Sisters and brothers, we can do better. And there is no better union than the Canadian Union of Public Employees, with members in every community across this country, and with our resources and our influence with government. For God's sakes, let's stand with the Aboriginal community. I was proud, actually, to be invited up into Thunder Bay last year for the Day of Protest to be a keynote speaker. My friends, I'm prepared to do it again. I'm prepared to stand on picket lines with the Aboriginal community. I beg you, I implore you, send a message from this convention, from the biggest union in the country, that we stand full square with the Aboriginal community across all of Canada. Please pass this resolution, sisters and brothers.
Jeepers, is that a call for the question, Dave? All those in favor of ceasing debate? Thank you. All those opposed? Debate ceases. All those in favor of the committee's recommendation of concurrence? Thank you. All those opposed? Well, carried pretty overwhelmingly. Okay, back to election results. Please welcome Randy Millage, Regional Director.